Hi guys, so I'm going to just give a little bit of time for everyone to kind of get here. I know you guys are probably in the middle of finals and this was probably going to be a risk, but I just wanted to go ahead and do this for you guys. I'm moving soon, so I wanted to go ahead and answer some of your questions and just tell you a little bit about my experience. It was kind of weird lighting. I just wanted to tell you about my experience and just go through what my process is like. This is probably going to be available through replay. So if you're watching it through replay, I don't know if it lags a little bit. So hopefully that's not the case. Okay, so I'll 10 minutes for you guys to kind of trickle in. I figured it was probably going to be something that would be kind of like useful. So I'll just wait probably till like 7:05. Oh, hi everyone. So if you can see me, go ahead and you can type anything in the chat if you'd like. I would love to know who's here. So a little bit about me while we're waiting for everybody to come in. So I am an incoming D1. I graduated last year in August, so I did have a gap year, so nothing to be scared about if you're going to have one. I took my DAT on June 7th. So I remember that exact day because I was so nervous. So yeah, I did take my DAT June 7th. I took it once and that's it. And I was honestly prepared to reschedule that exam. Like I was freaking out. I took that exam, I studied for it in 8 weeks. And hi, I studied for it in Hey! Hi, guys. So, yeah, I studied for it in 8 weeks. I was taking finals. I was in the middle of my classes. I was working. Like, my husband was nice enough to help me with some of the workload, but it was still something that I had to do. So don't feel bad if you're one of those people that can take off all the responsibilities you have to study for your DAT. If you're efficient, you get the right study materials, then you can study in the right amount of time. So one of the things that I recommend, I have a video posted of everything, like all my DAT materials, everything I use. Prices might have changed because things are a little different now, but I would recommend doing that. Study efficiently. I think I still did pretty well. I got a 21, and I'm pretty happy about that. Also, if you guys aren't sure about rescheduling, choose a diagnostic exam. Like I chose one exam that I said, okay, if I don't do well in that one, then I'm not going to take it. I'm going to reschedule because I want to take it once. My cat is not enjoying this. So definitely check that video out if you want to see basically the practice exams, and if you want to see when you should take it, you can look at that. So I don't know where you guys are in the process right now. If you guys want to tell me if you're applying or if you already got in. I think you're probably applying if you're watching this. So just for me to have an idea. And if you've taken your exam already, so I know if I should keep talking about the so I know if I should keep talking about the exam or if I should move on to something else. Another thing that I would like to mention is GPA. Like I worried about my GPA. I don't think I had anything crazy. Like people have 3.6 GPAs and they're freaking out. And I had like right below that. So I think that if your GPA is something that you're worried about, definitely kill your DAT. Like kill your DAT, because if you're not one of the people getting a 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, then you want to really do well on your DAT. Now, if you have a lower score, a lower GPA, don't be afraid. Like don't freak out about it. I'm a big fan of the GPA trend, right? So what are the trends in your GPA? Did you start taking harder classes? Did you start increasing your grades, your study time? you don't want to have, like, at the end of your senior year, a kind of like weird transcript where you did so well your freshman year and then all of a sudden it just started going, that's something you don't want. So even if you have like a good GPA, you want to show upward trends, especially your senior years. Like, I really think that I killed my last 2 years and that made me feel better about my application. So if you're worried about how you started off, do not be worried. Like, you still can fix it. And if it's still something that, like, let's say you graduated, you can do the post-bac, you can do a master's. I posted a video about that and how I feel about it. So yeah, GPA trends. So the next thing that I want to tell you guys, the dental school tool that they have on the ADIA website, that is boss. Like, that is something that you want to use. I posted a video about that as well. I use that. I use like the paper version. So you can use that. Okay, wait, I have a question. How did I manage taking 2 science courses at once? Okay, so with science courses, you actually want to show them that you can handle course load, okay? So I have a friend that was kind of freaking out about the fact that she has only taken part-time classes. She has not taken 12 credits at a time. She has taken like, 11 or a little bit less. So the trick about taking a couple science classes together is knowing how to manage your time and also knowing what classes you should take together. So you obviously, when you get to dental school, it's already going to be very difficult, but you want to show those schools that you can handle an okay course load, right? Now, don't kill yourself. Like, I see people do this all the time. Maybe you want to like super impress them, and then all of a sudden you take like anatomy with like a crazy engineering class and some other class, and then all of a sudden your GPA goes down. You don't want to do that. You want to balance it with the right amount of science courses. And to be honest, they just want to see you make good decisions also. Like, part of being a dentist is going to involve good decisions. So how do you know that this person's going to know what's good for them or making good decisions for their career? So talk to your pre-health advisor, talk to your friends, like, see what professors you're taking. Don't necessarily take the easiest professors. And you need to be watching and making sure that you understand that your professor is a person you need to be speaking to in order to succeed. So go to those office hours. That's how you handle taking those classes. So if you're scared about taking 2 different classes that are both science, don't be. You can do it. You can absolutely do it. Maybe start, with 2, one hard and an easy, and then challenge yourself up. Okay. Hi, Iridiana. Oh, I did not know at the beginning I wanted to pursue dentistry. That's another thing I was scared about. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I used to talk to people and they would be like, I knew that I wanted to be a dentist when I was 7. I'm like, good for you. That's awesome. But I did not know that. I actually started out as a business major. Now, I did take science classes in high school, so I knew I liked science. I knew I liked health, but I was kind of scared about what math would entail in order for me to do like a bio or chem degree. So I decided to like not do it. That was just me being scared, and it ended up being something that I shouldn't have been scared about. So one thing I would tell my freshman self was just to go for it. But yeah, I didn't know right away. I found out after I started volunteering. Um, Oh, okay. No, thank you so much. So yeah, my hardest obstacle that I had to overcome. So in the beginning, I actually went away for school. I went away to a school that's like an amazing school, and I had some issues. It had to do with my health. That was like the biggest thing that I had to overcome. So when I came back down and I regrouped and everything, that's when I kind of knew I wanted to do dentistry. So I think that was the biggest obstacle. But I think I turned out okay. Everything was fine. So if you have an obstacle, what I would suggest is mention it in your personal statement, but have a happy ending. Like, do not mention something negative in your personal statement, and then all of a sudden you just leave them with this cliffhanger, and you're like, oh, look, this happened, and then, you just kind of leave this negative impression about yourself. You want to show that you kicked butt, and it totally turned out fine. Oh, oh yeah, I understand. If you're not a science major, I know it can be daunting. Don't worry. I mean, especially if anybody is also non-traditional, like it's just one of those things where they understand. They see the entire breadth of your application. Keep in mind that some schools are numbers heavy. Like they will find a way to first cut through numbers, which is why GPA and DAT are something that is so important. Like the first thing that you're showing them is like your GPA, and they're like, okay, this is how she did in school, or he. Then your DAT is kind of like, wait, so how hard was the school, or how hard were the classes? Does this GPA really reflect this? And sometimes we just have off days, right? It might not even be a reflection of who you are as a student when you take that DAT, but sadly, that's what they're going to look at when they look at your application. So you definitely want to have a balance. And if you're short on one of them, you better be awesome at the other. So if you have a really low GPA, you better have a good DAT. If you have, a really bad DAT, hopefully your GPA can kind of make up for it. How did I start shadowing? So I started shadowing because I would go through SDN, and I knew that was one of the things I had to do. And I also wanted to know if dentistry was something that I liked. One of the things that I wish I would have done different was not starting with shadowing a specialist. So my first shadowing experience was with an orthodontist, and while being an orthodontist is probably fun, shadowing an orthodontist is not that fun because a lot of the times it's just adjustments, and I'm watching the assistants do a lot. So I was kind of like disheartened a little bit when I shadowed that specialist. But then when I went to shadow a general practitioner, I was like, this is awesome. Like you get to do all of these things. And it was just more dynamic. Once you know more about dentistry, then shadowing specialists becomes more fun. And I would suggest having more general practitioner hours on your application than specialist ones, because you don't want to show them or have them like take home the impression that you want to be an orthodontist or you want to be a periodontist and you haven't even gone through school yet. Granted, you might have parents that are dentists or brothers and sisters, but you haven't gone through school yet. So they want to make sure that you haven't pigeonholed yourself and you haven't gotten all these dreams, because dental school is really hard. So there's a very small percent that does specialize. So keep that in mind when you're shadowing. And then shadowing is not that hard to find. Check spreadsheets from your pre-health club. If you don't have one, another school will have one. Trust me. At the time when I started shadowing, my school wasn't that involved. Now their club is much better. So what I did is I looked up the other schools' shadowing list, and it was online, and I took it and I called and they were willing to see me. So just hustle for anybody who's willing to just show you their office, and they're happy to see you there. So I hope that answers that. So I wanted to tell you guys about like my actual application experience. So like I told you, I took my DAT June 7th and I applied, but I actually submitted my application prior to taking my DAT. I took time off to study for my DAT to finish my application. I finished it in about 1 day and a half. So I did it all in a day. It's pretty easy to get through, but mainly because I had my personal statement already. I had written that with enough time. And I also have a video on that if you want to see it. It's kind of long, but I made it that way because there was a lot to say about the personal statement. Like, think about it. You're just a numbers game until they get to that personal statement. You're just a numbers game until they get to your letters of recommendation. So if they're trying to pick between two applicants who are very similar, guess what they're going to turn to? Seeing your personal statement, the voice in your personal statement, and seeing your letters of recommendation. And you know what? I also want to say that if those complement each other, if you happen to be mentioning themes in your personal statement and they kind of see that in what your letters of recommendation say, they're kind of like, wait, these people actually know this girl or this guy. Like, they're really validating everything. Like, everything they're saying in their personal statement is validated in these letters. So that's a really big thumbs up. So try your hardest, try to get that to happen. And the way you do that is by forming like genuine connections with those professors, forming genuine connections with your volunteer coordinator, things like that. So definitely feel like that has to be strong. So I submitted my application. I did have, there's like a part where you can star your most common or the best things you want to highlight. One thing that I didn't know was that there is a cover sheet. Your application has a cover sheet and it will highlight the most important parts of your application. So how does that happen? They will put in all your demographic information. They'll put in specs of other things. And then for your volunteer experiences, your work experiences, anything like that, they won't put in everything. They will make you highlight the most important. I can't remember the exact number, but it was like 5 or 7. So they'll make you star those, and that's what's going to appear on your cover sheet. So make sure you star the right ones. Make sure you star the ones that made the biggest impact for your undergraduate career. Okay, so once you do that once, you can change it. Although I actually had a glitch, because you know me, like I'm literally a walking Murphy's Law, and I was finishing my application as the system went down. So I was able to change mine once, but you usually can't, and you want to make sure that that cover application is like on point. It has everything that you need. I didn't know that that was a thing until I was filling out my application. Once you submit your application, let's say you don't have all of your letters of recommendation in yet, contact the schools. They actually read the emails, okay? One of the things that I noticed throughout the cycle was that when I would email a school, they would reply to me and they'd say, thank you, we put this in your file. And I'm like, what? So they actually print what you say and they put it in your file. So it's really important that what you write to admissions committees during the cycle, at least for a lot of schools, that you proofread, that you make sure that you're making sense, that everything inside that email is something that you wouldn't mind that admissions committee member reading, whoever is making a decision. They might read it, they might not, but you don't want to take that chance, okay? I also kept a spreadsheet of all the conversations I had with admissions committee members. And the way that I did that is I just had an Excel sheet and then I made, like name, contact, when it was, what school, and then what it was about. That might be a little bit of overkill, but it really helped me, and it's a good way to connect. If you meet somebody on interview day, you can say, oh, hi, I'm so-and-so, and we talked about this. Or when you read another email, you can say, I previously talked to you about that, right? So that's really important. You want to look really engaged the whole cycle. If you are having issues with your application, somebody's not turning in a letter, you're late on committee. Sometimes committees take a while for everything to come through. Let them know, hey, I'm really interested in your school. I'm just waiting for my committee to come through. They said it should be about this date. So they know. Don't feel bad if you don't have everything in yet. If your DAT is not in, your letters are not in, submit that application. You can submit it. Put yourself in the queue. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they just leave their application hanging out there. And to be honest, I know they say they don't, but they kind of start looking even when you submit it, because I had a friend, her letters weren't in, nothing was in like that. She had taken her DAT and that wasn't, but they sent her a supplemental. Okay, so that just gives you an idea. So I would go ahead and make sure that you submit everything that you need to submit on time, and if it's not there, contact. Another thing I would say is use social media. I know that, you guys are doing YouTube now, you're watching this. I found so much information about all of my schools through here, but not just like, oh, dental students talking about their school, but schools themselves posting videos, interviews with faculty members, because you're going to have supplementals that are going to ask you specific questions. If you have a top school, you probably know a lot about that school. But if you're applying out of state, how much reach have you had about going to that school? I mean, unless you've taken a ton of trips there, then that's one thing. But you have to get creative when you're not able to fly and constantly talk to admissions committee members or attend their open houses like you would a school that's right there. So you find interviews, go online. A lot of these schools on their websites have blogs. Subscribe to them, like bookmark them, see what they're doing. On Facebook, what I would do is similar to what I mentioned on my DAT video. I would go to their page, like it, and then make sure that it would like show up first on my Facebook page. So the default setting is that it'll come up whenever, but I would put the setting as to having notifications. So I would know what was going on with the school, who's getting research funding, what are they doing new with the clinic, things that you can mention and talk about during your interview and have that one-on-one with the interview. And they can be like, wait, how do you know about that? How are you aware of this? Request brochures, request information, attend these meetings they have. It's, I think through ADIA, they have, I forgot what it's called. It's like an entire seminar where you go and they'll have like missions committee members from all over, and you can go to each of the school's booths. It's a virtual fair. There you go. It's a virtual fair, and the virtual fair is like so useful. You guys, they upload content, a lot of which you can find on their site, but sometimes they'll put in like this random little document which you can tell was made specifically for that virtual fair. Download it, put it in a folder. When you're writing your supplementals, you're going to thank yourself for it. Make sure you save your supplementals. If you don't know, you have a primary application, and then after the primary, you get a supplemental application. With the supplemental application, you want to go ahead, save it, because you want to review it before your basically your interview day. You want to remember how excited you were when you were applying to that school, right? You also want to make sure you stay consistent when you're interviewing. Do I think submitting an application in early August is a bad idea? She's going to be studying for the DAT the whole summer. She wants to do it well, and she couldn't study during the school year. You should take the DAT when you're ready. People take it at different times. I've had friends that have submitted it from all the way like before me. They took it in May or April. I took it in June. I have a friend that took it in August. We're all going to dental school. Okay, that just gives you an idea. We were also very involved students. That's not all there is to it. But if you have a good, solid science background and they can kind of see that, you taking your DAT in August is not going to hurt your chances. It's just going to give you more anxiety waiting to hear back. But if you're a solid applicant in that area, taking a DAT in August that will look better and it's a strong DAT, that is 100% better than a weak DAT just to have anything in. Remember that you can submit your application before that DAT is in. Okay? So take it in August when you're ready. If you haven't had the time, don't rush into it because you don't want to have to take it more than once. Okay, so I hope that helps. Like my friend got into a couple of schools and she took it later. Okay, so I personally just took it in June because I didn't know. I work also, so I knew that it wasn't going to get any easier for me. So I did take it in June, and I had a set timeline of when I wanted to study. But if it's going to get you the better score, do it in August. So I think that's everything about the application. Know that if you have a disadvantage or if something significant happened in your life, there are spaces to mention that. Don't waste your entire personal statement on it. Mention it slightly, but there are spaces to mention that if you need to, okay? And also, if you didn't know, the application breaks down your GPA a lot. Like, they literally break it down by so many different categories. It's kind of shocking to see, and you're kind of like, They break it down with your overall GPA with pluses and minuses, overall GPA without pluses and minuses, overall GPA or science GPA with pluses and like it just gets so crazy. You'll have like 10 different categories of your GPA. Don't freak out if one of those numbers seems low. Okay, they understand that they're really dissecting that, and it could just the sample size of your grades becomes a lot smaller. Don't freak out. Okay. And just like, yeah, Christina, I didn't even know about the cover page until I did it. I don't think a lot of people know, but if you go to some of the pre-dental days, they'll explain that to you. So I think that as far as my application, I didn't really have any pitfalls doing it. I think the only thing I would say is if you're applying for a fee waiver, do it. Try to do it because it does get expensive. So one of the things that the fee waiver does is that it'll pay for about 4 of those apps, your first 4 apps. But don't be discouraged. It's not just that. They will also make you eligible for your application supplementals fees to be waived, which is amazing. Okay, that's really, really important. So if you are a candidate for the fee waiver, let's say you were low income, please apply right away. It's open the first day, and then that will make you eligible for a bunch of other discounts. I would also like to say that your application does get expensive, and make sure you budget for those interviews. One of the things that I did when I was interviewing, I did not stay there for more than a night. I think the only one I did that at was when I went with my husband to Mystery City #1. If you don't know what mystery cities are, go to a playlist. I kind of like just show you guys my entire journey, but that was the only one I did that for. I would fly in one day, basically sleep that night, wake up, pack all my stuff, leave my luggage at the hotel. They will hold it for you. I would go to my interview, get out, and just fly home. Okay, so just make sure that you make some time for that, picking out your hotels. Also, reaching out to people. Oh, how do you apply for the fee waiver? So you can actually access the fee waiver. What I'll do is I'll put a link. Once this goes on replay, I'll try to put a link to it. The fee, if you Google fee waiver ADIA, and then just put maybe like dental, you can see when it'll open. It usually opens the first day. And so they'll have like a PDF that you can send to them, and then you have to attach additional information. Oh, Christina, yeah, you have a really busy schedule. Do not freak out. You can always take it in August. Make sure you guys get those diagnostic exams. The sample, if you guys have the sample ADIA exams that they give, which is basically a collection of old questions, that's going to be the most realistic view that you're going to have for your DAT. Okay, so save that exam for like 3 days before you're supposed to take your real exam. That's what I did when I was freaking out about rescheduling. If you like what you see, don't reschedule. Keep in mind, I actually got like 3 points lower on that exam, but that was like my minimum that I felt comfortable taking that exam for. So I had gotten a 19 on that sample DAT, and I ended up getting the 21 on my real exam, but 19 was my minimum. So give yourself a minimum. If you don't like it, don't take it. Okay, reschedule. Yeah, DAT Bootcamp's awesome. I love it. I think somebody mentioned in another video, like they commented that the price went up. You guys, it's totally worth it. Pay what you have to pay. That program is amazing, and it's a lifesaver. Also, oh, okay, Hollywood Star. So yeah, I have an entire video where I list like all of my materials, so you can go watch that. I'm not sure if, I think a lot of people watching probably already saw that. And if you want to go there, you can go to my channel and just see the video. It's pretty long, and I list absolutely everything that I used. So I know that we do things throughout the cycle while we're applying. So make sure you send those updates to the school. The application, the way that it works, it'll send a notification to the schools every time you make an update. But imagine how many updates they receive, right? You make an update, oh, look, my new grades are in. Oh, look, I volunteered some more. And they're getting like 1,000 of those. A lot of the schools actually call to inquire and say, hey, do you prefer those updates that you're getting online with the new system? Or do you prefer me to email you? And most of them said email. There were only like 2 schools that had a portal. The rest was overwhelmingly, for email. What are some interview tips? Oh my gosh, okay. So I spent so much time looking for interview tips. My number one tip, the most obvious one, obviously wear something that is very comfortable, but at the same time, very, very professional. Okay. And also make sure that it matches who you are. Do not go in there after saying that you are like extremely, low income and you're walking in with Blahniks. Like, don't do that. It's really bad. Make sure that you have a notebook that you can keep everything in. Most people like to use like the big leather bound notebooks. I found them, if you can get them in like a mini size, it's better. But I found that the big ones, people, when we're actually walking around and doing the tours of the school, you also want to take notes. And those are a little bit more difficult to kind of handle. So I found that it was just easier for me to have like a smaller notebook. But make sure it's like a cute notebook and not something ugly, okay? um, so basically, during the interview, you want to take notes the entire time, not just because you want to have them for future use, because you do, in case you want to compare schools later on, you want to use that. But you want to also take notes because if you happen to be, not the first interview group, you have some good notes that maybe you're looking at during the lunchtime or like a little break and you have more questions about. Guess what? You get to ask those during your interview and you can show that you were paying attention, which is really important. So interview day, I found, since I did interview at 7 schools, this was the theme that I saw. There were open forum times, student panels, sometimes roundtables with deans, and then you would have your interview, okay? So these are all opportunities that should be treated differently for questions. These are all opportunities that should be treated as a form of you showing that you really want to be there. You want to be remembered, okay? When they ask you, hey, we're going to go around the room and we're going to say a fun fact about ourselves, find that fun fact. I don't care if you hate that game, you find it and make it memorable and just make it something that, they remember, hey, look at this person. The open forum times, that's a good question to ask. That's a good time to ask questions that are more like statistics based, like what are your board passing rates and what is your graduation rate and when do you take the boards, and that's a good time because everybody giving those presentations has already been prepped for this, so you're gonna get better answers like what are the specialization rates. How does somebody that wants to go into this specialization rate fare at your school? Things like that, right? Don't do that to an interviewer that's probably a faculty member of the school and they don't actually have that off the top of their head. They're usually just there that day to do the interview. Okay, they just know what they know. So then there's also the student panel, and that's when they'll go and they'll like drop you guys into a room and they'll say, okay, this is a safe space. You can ask us anything. There's no faculty or admissions committee members in here. That's a really good time to ask less serious questions to these students. But at the same time, keep it professional because even though they're not going to tell them what your question was, they're probably not going to give some amazing feedback about you. So during the interviews, do they ask to display manual dexterity? I think LECOM is one of those schools. I think they do soap carving the day of, but there are other schools that don't. There's not a lot of schools that do that. If you guys know of anything, just let me know. Oh, I'm so glad you appreciate the help. Thank you. I'm just getting to your questions now. And what are some good things to do during a gap year? So I I posted a video about that, but definitely just keep volunteering. Work experience if you can do it. Find out what the requirements to be a dental assistant in your state are. I think that has helped me a lot. I've seen a lot of procedures. I've been able to kind of see a lot of patient care, and I was able to talk about a lot of that during my interviews. Um, yes. So as long as you did enough during the dental assisting that they can kind of see it, don't mention dental assisting if you're not going to remember procedures and things like that. And make sure you know what the rights of a dental assistant are in your state. For example, in my state, we're not allowed to take x-rays unless we have expanded functions. So don't mention taking an x-ray or don't take an x-ray as a dental assistant. And if you do a mission trip, don't mention, anything you weren't supposed to be doing. Uh, so yeah, if you do go to a school where they have some soap carving, maybe you want to practice a little bit of that. But I think the only one I've heard of is LECOM. So I don't know, maybe we can ask somebody that's done it, and then you guys can figure that out. Christina, I would hate that, to be honest. I would literally hate. I was so stressed in my interview days, and I was so like trying to keep it all together. And then I imagine having to hold something, carve it, and be like, look at my non-dental student yet soap carving. So I really feel for those people. On interview day, don't look like a loner. When you walk in, make sure you take the opportunity to make friends. Let's say you're walking in the beginning, there's always like a little reception or a breakfast time or something like that. Don't look like a loner. If you're kind of late, make sure you sit next to someone, find a seat. If you're early, call people over, have them sit next to you, because they're also, from the minute you walk in, they're judging you, okay? And you don't want to look like you have, problems meeting new people or talking to new people. Also connect with everyone as much as you can. These might be your future colleagues, and they might also have some insight about the school that you don't have. You also get to see kind of like the personalities and like the kind of people that were brought to this interview, so you can kind of see already what class you're trying to create. So I'm trying to make it so that you guys see all the moving parts that should be going on in your head on interview day. You're not just there to try to get them to like you. You're there and you should be a calculating machine, okay? All at the same time and using it throughout the day. So if you have a less than average GPA, do you have a chance of getting an interview? Remember that different schools have different processes. So if you have a less than average GPA, your best bet is to apply to schools that explicitly say they have a holistic process. And what a holistic process is that they'll actually look at all of your applications, all of the parts of your application. So you do not want a school that's very numbers heavy. Be smart about it. It's a lot of money. You want to be able to choose your right schools. Use the builder for the schools that I've mentioned before. Go find that online, pay for it. It's like 20 something bucks, the best thing you can do for yourself. And then just see what their mission statements are. Oh, some schools, by the way, ask that in their interview. What is our mission statement? So you better know that. Know it like the back of your hand. So I interviewed at 7 schools. You can go watch Mystery Cities. I'm a little bit paranoid. You guys are going to be able to guess. I mean, I didn't make it that hard. You're able to email me. As soon as I'm fully enrolled in a school, I will tell you. I will put it out there. But you know how social media is now these days. Somebody tweets something and they get fired. I just want to make sure that I'm there. And most people have emailed me. I've been really good about letting you know which schools those were and how I felt about them. So you can email me. No, I love doing this. Of course, I took the time, and you guys are awesome. So I would do this in a heartbeat. If I were to go through the process again, oh my gosh. Okay, so my committee took forever. And it was not just their fault. It was the fact that I think I had, people that were still sending things in. I don't know how your committee works. And if you don't know what committee is something that most schools offer. And it's an entire process, and they'll come in and they'll interview you prior to you going to an interview. Okay, so you submit, for us, it was like 3 letters of recommendation, 6 letters of evaluation, essay, blah, 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 blah. So for me, the way that it was going to go, when they were going to release my things, I felt it was going to be too late. So I wouldn't be able to get an interview with my committee until like July, end of July. And for me, if I already have all my stuff and I have my letters, I wanted to release those. So if I would have done things differently, I probably would have just made sure my committee could have been done sooner, if that makes sense, so that I could have had my interview sooner. So if you have committee, don't delay on that, please, because I had to explain and figure that out. So does working as a dental assistant count as shadowing hours as well? That's tricky. Like, a lot of people will tell you don't double dip. And a lot of people will say, like, for example, I worked as a dental assistant and never got paid for it. It was completely volunteer work, with an organization that I love. So that was a question I had as well. So it just depends. I would ask the schools. A lot of people say don't double dip, but I honestly believe that it's your call to make. Did you learn something? Were you shadowing the doctor enough that you felt like, okay, I actually got this experience as well? To be honest, I would put what, maybe split it, or maybe when you're assisting, like, kind of shadow more one day than the other, or whatever it is that you can do. Am I still going to make YouTube videos in dental school? Yeah, as much as I can. Like, I can't even believe, I'm so happy that you guys still watch, because I don't have as much to show you as I'm moving. But I have something super exciting coming up right before I get to start, like, officially dental school. But I'm going to be doing something really dental related at the school that I'm going to be attending. So that's going to be fun for me to show you guys. What would I change about my application? God, you guys are putting me on the spot. What would I change about my application? I really liked my application, to be honest. I think that I did a good job of showcasing my strengths and showing them how I overcame weaknesses. That was really important to me, and I was honest, 100% honest in my application. That's another thing. Don't lie, because lies will always come out. Be honest. Like, I know that sounds like really stupid, but it really is. If you have, and I've seen it on SDN, like, people who like recently, as they were applying, got into trouble, real trouble, like misdemeanor trouble. So then they were freaking out. You have to understand that now, as a dentist, when schools ask you things like, hey, do you have a past? Is it something that we should know about? They do this not to be mean, but because when you go apply for a license, you're actually going to have that come up. And so what would be the point of you going through 4 years of dental school and then you can't even practice? So it's really important that you're very, very honest and you communicate. I don't know if I'm interested in specializing. I am, like, very all over the place all the time, and I like variety. And I haven't been in dental school enough to know if that's something that I would like to do. So that's something, definitely go in saying you're a general practitioner. You want to be a GP. That's what you want to tell admissions committee members, because they freak out when they see somebody come in knowing and saying, I want to specialize, and there's actually people that do that. So don't be one of those people. Even if you have your specialty in the back of your mind, keep it there. It'll be there when you get back from your interview. You are a GP. Yes, I'm still going to answer emails, of course, Alex. I'm going to answer them. This was just like a really fun way to answer a bunch of them at a time, but I will still answer private emails. No. So all the interviews I went to, I was lucky enough to get in. So James's question is, did I have an interview where I did extremely well, even got recommended, and then got waitlisted? keep in mind that the person interviewing you can say whatever they want. They can tell you you're amazing. They can tell you that you are the ideal candidate. But remember, that interview is one aspect of your application. And I firmly believe that an interview, if done right, is an acceptance. But think about the statistics. I really feel that sometimes we get really excited because they talk to us and they seem like they're all about us. And then we get, kind of disheartened when we see that it's not true. I would write a letter of intent, and if something like that happens, and just remind them why you're so focused on their school and why you really wanted to go there. And if you have stuff to back that up, even better. Okay. So that's really, really important. And the opposite happens too. Like, I went to an interview, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I went to an interview where the interviewer answered his phone while I was being interviewed. He answered his phone to his general contractor. And I'm like, I'm not getting into this school. Like, the guy answered his phone and he spoke for like 2 minutes. So I got in anyway, and that just goes to show it goes both ways. Okay, so don't take it, be really happy and grateful and say, oh my gosh, thank you so much, I really do want to go to your school, and you're excited that they responded so well. But always be objective and understand that they're not the final say. How many schools to apply to? So like, that is something very personal. Your GPA, your DAT, right? The average is like 10 to 15 schools. So make sure to save up enough for that. But if you are on the low end, apply to a lot of schools. Like, what is it worth losing a year because you decided to save some money? Just because you didn't want to feel like you applied to like a lot of schools. I know somebody that applied to 20 something schools, and he was really happy he did that because his friend with amazing stats applied to 7, got really confident, and didn't get in. Okay, so think about that. Is retaking a class from one that you failed counting against you? Remember that the way that your GPA is calculated, retakes are calculated in. They don't replace your grade. So although your school might do that, the application does not do that. So that's why they have to recalculate your GPA so that you have a GPA that is representative and based on their requirements. So don't look at your transcript as the final GPA. That is not it. I did not apply to any unfriendly out-of-state schools. And I did that purposefully. One, because I had a budget and I wanted to make sure that I was applying with a purpose. And Texas dental schools, you're very brave if you apply. They're so cheap. Like, Texas dental schools, if you're from Texas, you're so lucky, okay? You have like not one, but like several schools that you can apply to, and they're dirt cheap. So I would say if you're applying out of state, make sure you apply to friendly states. And like I said, there's a database you can use to find out who those are. I mean, that database actually even shows you the distribution by states. So I even looked at that and saw, I'm from Florida, so I saw, okay, who also takes a lot of students from Florida, not just out of state, but am I represented here? Okay, so that's also something that I looked at. And I know that might seem a little OCD, but it worked, right? So think about that also when you're looking at this. I also wanted to tell you guys, and you guys can keep asking questions. I don't mind stopping for them. But yeah, go ahead and keep asking if you want to. I do have like a little list. I do want to say, where's the database, Tater? So I have a video that kind of even shows you the overview of the database. It's by Idea. It used to be just a book, and now they made this thing that you can search. So it's called the Dental School Explorer. If you Google Idea Dental School Explorer, you'll see it. You can buy it with the book, or the online version of the book they print. But since I already had like the old 2015 book and I kind of saw what the idea and the general gist was, I only got the Dental School Explorer. And that is like a lifesaver. I would say definitely on interview day, notice a lot of things about the atmosphere of the school, the facilities, the technology. If it's a newer school, like I actually interviewed at like 2 new schools, and I looked at where their technology budget went. Like, if you're going to make it this expensive, are we learning new technology? And on the other hand, I interviewed at a much older school and I looked at whether they have been adopting or trying to adopt to new technology and to see if we're going to be prepared enough for that. Because as you know, the dental field is changing constantly. So, uh, yeah, so can you do a postbac and still apply at the same time and update schools with new grades? Yes. And the only thing that I would say is before you submit your application, there'll be a chance for you. How it works is you'll have to print a barcode or save it on your computer to request your transcript. So you'll request your transcript and you'll have to attach this barcode. Once you submit your application, your grades are in and locked, okay? Especially once your GPA has been verified. The next time you'll be able to update schools with your new grades will be during the update time, which will be in November. So think about that, okay? It is a long cycle. And if you're working on something at the moment, you won't be able to update them until November of that cycle. What was the most shocking or not expected questions received? Okay, so I went to an interview, which was an MMI interview. And so the way that MMI works, it's a multiple mini interview. And you'll go to like different stations with different interviewers all the time. And it was like 6 or 7 stations. And I think the last one, it was a question that was an ethics question, and they asked me pretty much if the gist of it was whether I was going to report this dentist to the licensing board. And that's a tricky question, right? So when you get questions that are like ultimatums, I got a question like that. I got a popular question is about basically alcoholism. You know, if you get a patient that is inebriated or it's a young patient and they're inebriated, things like that, you'll get, maybe depending on the school, you'll get an ethical question. And make sure to qualify your answers. And if you don't know what qualify means, look at both sides. Do not do the whole, oh, for sure, I'm gonna tell this person's parents, or I'm gonna report this dentist to the board. You have to make sure you consider both sides. When you're also responding questions like this, you want to make sure that you give them the ability to see your thought process. So don't think in your head by yourself. Make sure that you go through and you're like, okay, so if I were the dentist, I would first think about blah, blah, blah situation. Then the next steps that I would look at would be so and so. Then I would speak to, and then my final decision would be, and then give them scenarios. So that's what they want to see. They want to see your decision-making skills. Other questions I was asked were things like, what are your weaknesses? Be prepared for that. Why dentistry? You're going to hear that 1,000 times. Why dentistry? And although that sounds simple, a lot of schools, if they're not satisfied with the answer, will ask you again. So make sure you can explain why dentistry in 45 seconds or less and make it compelling. Like, practice with anyone. Actually, when I was on the plane going to one of the interviews, I had someone, I guess her cousin was a dentist, and she turned to me and she said, "Why dentistry?" And I was like, and I started explaining it to her, and she's like, wait. Let's go again, let's make it shorter. Let's do this. And so till the last second, I learned. Make sure that even though in your mind you think, oh my gosh, I sound so compelling, look at me, yay, you don't know that for sure. Make sure, oh, also, and don't sound rehearsed. Like, they know. They see people like us all the time. They see people doing interviews all the time. Do not sound rehearsed. they can tell, like it's just one of those things that they feel. For why dentistry 4 minutes, you would be hard pressed to find an interviewer willing to give you a full 4 minutes. Mainly because you don't know how long your interview time will be. You also should look at that when you get an interview, see how long it's going to be. For example, in an MMI, they're not going to ask you why dentistry and then you're going to answer for 4 minutes. Okay, so make sure why dentistry has a compelling answer and you answer it in a way that you keep them interested. Put yourself in their shoes. How many kids are they interviewing? Are you going to blah, blah, blah? Make sure you have a conversation with your interviewer. Don't sit there and just talk about yourself. I know that as dentists or future dentists, and as people who have taken rigorous coursework and we're like type A personalities, we just love to talk about our accomplishments. Make sure you have a conversation. I forgot what the book is, but there's a book, and it basically is all about how you have more efficient conversations with someone when they feel that you're listening more to them. So make sure that you're asking enough questions of your interviewer. One nice question to ask your interviewer is to say, what's a recent large change the school has had and how do you feel about it? Why did you choose to work at this school specifically over another school? How do you feel about the support systems that are given to schools here, to students here in the school? It's really important that you seem like really, really interested because they will go back and say, hey, this kid did not ask me a question, or I didn't feel like they wanted to know enough. I did have an interview where it was a dental student and a faculty member. So what was interesting about that is I got to ask that student specific things on a student level, but that faculty member was watching. That faculty member wanted to know kind of what I was about. And then when I asked the faculty member specific things, the dental student would chime in with what he knew from the student side. And then definitely don't bombard the interviewer with questions they're not going to know. You don't want to, make a fool out of yourself. Also, just be very conscious. When I went to one of my interviews, I was speaking with another student, and she told me she mentioned the name of another school in her interview. So, at that point, her interviewer was done. So make sure you're in the right headspace, you get a good night's sleep, and that you keep your school straight, especially if you have multiple schools. Another thing that I would say is during the tour, just take a look at the facilities. It's really important if you have a weekday tour that you kind of see what the vibe of the clinic is, because you're going to be there. Do they have a lot of patients? Is the school vibrant? Where do you have lunch? Is the library open and open to what time? Keep in mind that some schools are not in the best neighborhoods, so they might close early. So if you're not a person that likes to study at home and you have always studied at school, is that going to be an option for you? What if you want to come in late to clinic and you want to work on your stuff, but the school closes early because it's not the best area? And to be honest, some schools are not in the best area because they want to serve a specific population, and it does play out better for you in the end. You want to ask the ratio to faculties to students. How many faculty to each student? Because you want to see how you're going to be supported. Are you going to be constantly, given some advice, or are you going to have to hustle between other students to get to your faculty member? Is it harder to be accepted in-state than out of? No, it depends. Okay, it depends. So if your in-state school tends to be a school that is a really tough school, it might be harder, right? But remember, your in-state schools will always prefer in-state students, and then you have to think about the fact that out-of-state schools that are not private and they're public and they're schools that favor in-state, you're going to have a harder time with. But I interviewed at an out-of-state school that most kids there are from their state, and they're friendly to the out-of-state students they like. I mean, you just have to find your groove and which school fits your profile. But I would say it's harder out of state, and it gets easier if it's private. If it's public, then it's a little bit more difficult because you're fighting for that. Maybe look for schools that have like a set split that you can use. So I'm going to be wrapping up soon, probably in the next 10 minutes. So if you have more questions, now would be the time to do it. I will probably have another one of these before or once the application opens, in case you guys, now that you've seen the application, you have more questions. So what resources did you use to find more information about the schools before going to the interview? So like I mentioned, I went on the school's blogs, I went on their YouTubes, I looked for information on social media. This was kind of unorthodox. On Instagram, I don't know if you guys follow hashtag dental threads or hashtag future dentist, I think it's called. And I saw a profile of this girl, so they reposted her info, and she was like awesome. So I messaged her and I'm like, look, I'm applying out of state. I really love this school. You seem a little similar to me. How do you like it? What can you tell me about it? How do you feel my chances are? And she wrote back. She was awesome. I mean, we became Facebook friends. She encouraged me. People are willing to help if you look for the help. So finding a student that looks friendly and is similar to you, because remember, experiences are different. So just seeing their feedback and what they went through, that would be something good to do. I also went to the virtual fairs. I know ADIA hosts virtual fairs before applications open and after applications open. So make sure you attend those, and not just attend, don't just observe. Speak to the committee members, because that's something you can say when you see them again. You can say, hey, yes, I remember I spoke to you during the virtual fair and you said this about so-and-so. So that's really important. What was my GPA? So my GPA was nothing like amazing. I did not have a 3.9 GPA. My GPA was average. So I think I was average. Well, also because I started off as a business student, I wasn't always a science student. My science GPA was actually higher than my overall GPA. I had somebody ask me about it and they were like, what? Why is this the thing? So for my science GPA, I had a 3.45. Okay. So, and that was, my GPA was stronger my last semester. So my last 2 years, but my overall GPA was actually lower than my science GPA. Yes, I'm gonna I'm gonna let her replay. Like I think you guys are gonna be able to watch it. It's gonna post once it loads everything within 24 hours. And no, you don't have to use the computer, and that's your virtual fair. But they do have fairs that they host in person, and I think that's probably even better. But it was always like, I don't know, people would actually like fly to those, and I'm like, that's another level. Also, if you're involved in ASDA, that's probably something good to do if you have the time. I always had to work, so I couldn't do it, but if you can do it, I would recommend it. Also, what else? Like, what else about my interview? Just be conscious of where you're applying and don't be discouraged. Like, I got interviews after December 1st. I got an interview actually at the end of February. Obviously I didn't go because I got into one of my top schools, but I think that you have to understand that the cycle is long. Don't get discouraged. If December 1st rolls around, you haven't heard anything, write those letters of intent. Don't write it to schools that you feel okay about. Write it to the schools you really want to go to, but also be realistic. Like don't write it to Harvard if you're not Harvard material. Don't waste your letter of intent in that. Be genuine. Write to the schools that you really want to see. Did I ever receive? Yeah, I did receive a B. I did. for Orgo 2, but my professor in Orgo 2 was like really harsh. And and also in calculus. I'm not the best in math, clearly. Like you can tell from my DAT math score. So not only did I freak out during my DAT glitch, but also I'm just not the best in math. So imagine that combination was like the worst. Listen, just try to do your best. For those of you that are here and are still working on grades, for the prereqs, A's and B's, A's more than B's. If you happen to get anything lower than a B, make that a one-time thing. Okay, make that something that you learn from. You don't want to keep showing them that you get bad grades and then they're like, so what happened? Unless you have a perfectly good explanation for it. Okay, but don't like a bead never broke someone. Okay, I have B's in my application. C's can get problematic if you're not watching them and if you're not showing them that you're improving. But here, I will reveal that. Everyone always asks, I will reveal that as soon as I'm in my first day of dental school. I promise you guys I will post it. Hi, Larry Lake. Hello. I promise that I will post it, but you are welcome to email me, dentaljosie@gmail.com. Josie Dental was taken. I don't know who that is, Josie. Give me your email. But you can go ahead and email me. I will answer. And just give me some time. Like I'm moving. I don't know if you can tell, like there's nothing in my apartment. Like I am pretty much ready to go. I'm moving actually in 7 days. So it's super exciting. My lease is up. We're ready to go. What schools? I didn't apply to the private school in my state. There's 2 private schools and a public school. I applied to my public school and one of the other schools, but I did not apply to a private school that I felt in my state is more money than the school I'm going to attend now. I'm attending a school that for a private school is a really good deal for the money. Yeah. So definitely also find those gems. Like sometimes your private school might be something that you can work with depending on the area it's in. I know people that go to, I don't know, schools like Creighton and they do great and they pay everything off. So just be smart about how you apply, educate yourself about their financial aid. You lost your tooth, you're 11? You're 11 and you're here. That's so cute. Um, well, you'll get a new one. um, so, do I plan on working part-time while I'm in dental school? That is a tricky question. My husband and I actually have a business. So it's nothing like, oh my God, we have 1,000 employees, but we do have a business that's what we used to pay for college. If you guys don't know, I'm 25. So not sure how old I look, but yeah, I'm 25. And I started off as a business major and then I decided to do the biology degree. So everything just took a little bit longer. I took some time to decide what I wanted to do. So I want to hire someone to work on the business while we are not, able to do so, and then maybe review that work. But I don't recommend you working while you're going to dental school because I know some people do little things like they'll drive Uber every once in a while, little things that don't take a commitment because you want to give dental school your all. Like that's going to be at the end of the day what you're interested in. You're going to have to depend on loans if you don't have like a passive income. Like what we do is online, so it's more passive income. So it's easier for me to kind of outsource and keep at least some money in so that I don't have to borrow from loans as much. But yeah, I don't recommend working while in dental school unless it's something super simple. Oh, Larry would like to be a dentist and he's 11. Everyone, he just lost his tooth. That's nice. Do dental schools offer scholarships? Dental schools do. And you think that they don't, but they do. One of the schools that I attended the interview for, they offered me a $60,000 presidential scholarship. So that was nice. But I ended up ultimately going to my top school, and that school gave me a different kind of grant, which is what I'm going to be showing you guys in about like a month. I'll show you what that's going to be like. I'll start a new series, and I got a grant, and I could get to do like a 5-week program where we start early with clinical skills classes. They buy our scrubs. They, get us ready at the school before we enter. Yeah, they also pay moving costs. What else? They pay for meals, and I mean, it's a really good deal. So you just have to kind of see what programs are out there for your school. A lot of times, also schools will have, what they'll do is they'll have better scholarships after the first year. So do really well your first year. Try to do a good job, because some schools will offer it. And then there's other scholarships, little scholarships, $1,000 here, $5,000 there if you need them. So the presidential scholarship, I had to just accept it. Like, I didn't have to apply for it. It was part of my admission. So there's 2 different types of scholarships the dental school can give you during your acceptance. So when I got the call, they were like, hey, you're also getting a presidential scholarship for this amount of money, should you choose to accept it. Then there's the scholarship that just comes out from alumni that donates to the schools, and then the financial aid office sends out that information. And then if there are any need-based scholarships, you would find out if you qualify for first year ones when your financial aid package is built. Can you apply to a certain amount of schools and then add more after taking the DAT without having to refill out the application? Yes, so you fill out your application once, and that's the bones of that application is overall what you're going to do and send to all the schools. What changes might be the extra supplemental sections of the application if they have them built in. If not, it'll be something that they send you the invitation for that later. And then this is the last question, and then I'm going to have to stop. And then we'll do another one of these, I promise. How does my score compare to my top school's average choice? So I think they have actually a 20 or 21. So I was right there. Just don't be discouraged, Think about the fact that that number is an average. So something is bringing down the number, right? So there are lower DATs somewhere in there, and there are higher DATs somewhere in there. So just look, most schools, their average is a 20. Most schools that are something that, you want to, it's like your top school or a lot of people want to go or whatever it is, like they tend to have like those higher DATs. A lot of schools that maybe are in favorable weather, or they are, like a school that gets a lot of attention, maybe they attract some higher applicants. So don't just make that a measure of whether you should apply there or not. Oh my God, no, I did not have braces. I'm actually getting braces. I'm actually kind of conscious about the fact that I have a crooked tooth. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I can tell. I sucked my thumb when I was little. It was the worst thing ever. And so I'm going to be getting braces when I go to dental school, and I'm excited about that. So I think that's it. So on that note, Larry, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This will be available for replay. Hopefully it won't have that lag. Sometimes I've seen a replay. I think when I was testing the live chat last time, it was like a little bit blurry or laggy. Hopefully it doesn't have that. For those of you that made it, I hope it was helpful. You guys had so many amazing questions. This was so fun. I thought nobody was going to show up. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you have a wonderful night. Please be so excited. You guys can do this. You guys are all unique for different reasons. So just don't be discouraged. Don't listen to what other people are saying. Everyone's going to be talking about their stats and their scores and their application. You are unique. If you've gotten this far, you know you have a little bit of something there in order to apply, right? So please don't get discouraged. Be excited. I'm so excited to show you guys. I'm going to be starting a new series, similar to how we did Mystery Cities, but it's going to be about that grant program that I'll be doing for about 5 weeks before school starts. So